So let's take a look at what happens when I click on one of these elements. I'm going to start profiling with the React Profiler, then I'm going to stop, and I click on one of those, and yeah, I'm not getting a re-render of my app or my grid because that's memoized. That's awesome. I am getting a re-render of the app provider because the state is changing. That makes sense. But if we look down here at these little slivers, we're seeing that these cells are re-rendering, and it's kind of hard to tell from this view, but if I click that one, maybe we can see a couple more. If you click the ranked chart here, then you're going to notice that, wow, all of these cells and buttons are re-rendering. What an absolute nightmare. Why are all those re-rendering? The only one that actually changes is the one that I clicked on. So what's the purpose in having them all re-render? Well, what's happening here is if we take a look at our cell right here, they are all consuming the state and then grabbing the part of the state that they care about, that little slice of state that they care about, and then rendering that. So if there was some way for us to say, hey, there's only part of this state that we actually care about, don't re-render me if that part of the state is irrelevant to me, then that would be great. But as it is, we're not getting that, even though we're memoizing it, because we're consuming the whole state. So there's something that we could do with this though. What if we put this logic in a separate component and then we pass this value as a prop? So we actually accept this as a prop here and then do this somewhere else. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to change this to cell impl. Okay, that's the implementation of the cell. And then we're going to expose kind of the public API as just our cell. And this is going to take the row and the column. And then here I can do my state consumption right there. And then I can return the cell impl with my row as the row and column is the column. And then my cell value is the cell. And now with this setup, this cell impl component won't re-render unless the thing it cares about, that slice of the state, is changed, in which case we actually want it to re-render because that state changed, right? And let's go ahead and we'll memoize this cell as well. So we'll say cell is react.memo cell. And with a save of that now, if I profile this and click and then unprofile it, and there we go. Okay, so we've got our app provider and we've got several of these that are re-rendering. What's going on here? Okay, they're all re-rendering. So what's happening here is actually this cell is still getting re-rendered because that context value changed. But this cell, on the other hand, is not. And so therefore, we're doing a little bit less work. You might notice a little bit more of an improvement in a real world scenario where this component does quite a bit more work than just render a single button. However, we are noticing right here that this cell impl did not re-render, and that's what we're seeing once we make this update. So let's go ahead and take a look at what this looks like when we profile this in production. So here's the before, here's the after, and I'm going to go ahead and record that. We'll click here, and then we'll stop, and then I'll record this. We'll click here, and then we'll stop. And let's take a look again. This is a 6x slowdown, so it should be quite a bit slower. And here's our click right there, 211 milliseconds. And then on this one, we've got our click right there. That's 92 milliseconds. Okay, so this is a pretty significant improvement. Feeling pretty good about that change. We're going to go ahead and stick with that. So in review, all that we did here was we noticed that when we profiled this, every single one of these cells is getting re-rendered, and that can be a little bit expensive, especially if this cell component were rendering a lot more of other components and things, and we don't really want it to re-render unless the slice of the state that they care about is the thing that actually changed. And so what we did is made a little man-in-the-middle component that is responsible for consuming all of the app state, grabbing the part of the state that actually matters, and forwarding that along to the underlying implementation of this component. And then that component can take advantage of memoization.